Welcome, everybody. I think we're live. Hey, guys. Welcome, everybody. John Aravosis here, Aravosis Report. Hello, YouTubers. How you guys doing? I'm going to get TikTok rolling here in about 2 seconds. And yeah, hopefully it's not showing you an ad first, but it might be. Sorry if it is. All right, going live on TikTok. Here we go. Woo! Here we go, TikTokers. Welcome, TikTok. Welcome to my intersection. Oh, hello all. How are we today? Woo! All right, waiting for the TikTokers to join us. Come on, TikTokers. There we go. Hey, David Jennings. I think you're the first one. Hey, TikTok. Hey, YouTube. Hello, all. Ended up being a busy day. I'm surprised. This was kind of a slow news, like a very slow news day for Ukraine. So I decided to dig a little deeper, and I found a lot of really cool stories, including some late-breaking news that's really good. Thank you, Mark Starr. It's overall a very good news day for Ukraine. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the gifts. So hey, buddy. So very good news day for Ukraine. So yay. Anyway, we'll wait about half a minute as always and then get rolling just to get people a chance to show up. Thank you, Marcy and Jen, Derek, Allen, lots of gifts coming in. Thank you, guys. You know what? Do an introduction again. Yeah. Hey, Jen, thanks for the gifts. Rocco, just say where you guys are from. We haven't done that in a while. I know some of you know to sort of do it. Oh, Marion's here. Marion, I've been wanting to get you back. We've had Russia questions recently. Hey, Mikey, two shoes or two toes, two shoes, whatever. Thank you for the gift, Brian, for the rose. We've been wanting to ask you, Marion, about thank you, Hannah, and Hannah. Oh, Hannah, multiple gifts there. We were wanting to ask you again about sort of, I've asked you this before, but I remember your answer about the Russian people kind of rising up and why it is that Putin is afraid of domestic discontent for doing a draft and things like that. But at the same time, Russia seems like a dictatorship where nobody ever speaks up. So why is Putin even worried about domestic discontent at all? That is our simple question. If you're able to give a few little typed in answers, I'll tell people what they are. Hey, Jen. Hey, Larissa. Lots of gifts coming in on TikTok. Jeremy. Thank you, guys. Rhodesia. Gunther, don't be rude. Hey, Scotty. Hey, Hannah. Thank you for the gifts. Chazek. Thank you, Elizabeth. I think we've got I feel rowdier today. I don't know why. There's a lot of news. Like I said, a lot of good news today, actually. Hey, Jen. Thank you for the gifts. Charles as well. Like I said, it's a very good news day today, which is interesting because there wasn't really much news at all. Thank you, Richard. So I started to dig deeper in the last half hour and then found a ton of double the amount of news to tell you guys. It's all really good. I mean, I don't know if there's anything in here that's really bad. It's really good news today across the board. So anyway, hey, Big Hawk. Anyway, woo. All right, guys. Thank you, Ocean Lover, for the gift. I'm going to get rolling. Do I lean left or right? Amanda asks. Amanda, it depends on the issue, especially on Ukraine. I don't think that's actually a fair question to ask about Ukraine. Thank you, Super Hornet. Because in the past, Americans who were more prone to use American military might abroad to spread democracy would be considered on the right more than the left. Now under Trump, if you don't embrace Vladimir Putin and you hate, you know what I mean? You're considered a liberal or something, right? So loving the Russians and loving their hegemony and hating NATO is somehow Republicans, which I don't buy that, by the way. So I'm very pro-American, pro-freedom, pro-democracy, pro-using American military abroad. That used to mean you were conservative. Now I don't know what. Now I think it just means you're normal. Thank you, Jen, for the tiny diny. All right, guys, let's get rolling here. Harvey's here today too. Wow, we've got we've got my friend Marion's here today. Harvey's here. Thank you, Ginger. Harvey might even have another degree under his belt at this point. It's been so long since we've seen Harvey. I forgot, Harvey. Were you going to law school? I'm trying to remember now. If you were just finishing up your law degree or if you were going to do law. I'm forgetting. Remind us. Hey, Jane, thank you for the gift there. So my friend Marion was weighing in, or she's starting to weigh in a little bit about my question about Russia. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Marge. Yeltsin, with popular support, got hold of the military and defeated the 1991 push. Okay, this is going to be a long answer, I can tell. All right, I think I'll get rolling and hopefully be able to keep an eye on what Marion's saying there. All right, guys, we got a critical mass. I will start the show. Welcome, everybody. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report, my nightly show I do from Washington, D.C. Oh, thank you, Eva. I was curious what those goggles were, the VR goggles. This is my nightly show I do talking about the latest news from Ukraine. Typically, the way the show works is I thank you, Alisoni. I go through the news, try to find the stories I think are interesting and I think are relevant. Thank you, Jane. By the way, wonderful gift from Jane right there. Thank you. Appreciate that. But I try to go through and find the news that I think is relevant and interesting and then explain it to you guys. My background is U.S. foreign policy, media. I've written for The Economist, among others, politics. I've done like 40 years of politics practically in Washington, D.C. So the idea of the show, thank you, Mustard. The idea of the show is to really tie together all my experience and help you guys understand what's going on with the war, particularly from an American perspective, because obviously that's where I'm coming from. Flower Lady, everyone's competing with nice gifts tonight. Thank you for that, Flower Lady. So let's just start with the news, guys. There's a ton of news here. Hopefully I'm not going to go too long. Thank you, Robert, because initially there was no news today. I spent a couple hours pulling the news together, had almost nothing written down, and I was going, well, I guess we'll just kind of chat today. And did like a last minute check. And what do you know, I was able to find, like Googling around Ukraine and stuff, was able to find a ton of really interesting stories today. Thank you, user 223. Either user 223 just subscribed or somebody just gave a gift that user 223 on TikTok was able to get. As always, if you did a gift, let me know because TikTok doesn't tell me, which is really annoying. But any case, so let's get rolling, guys. There's a lot of news today and a lot of really good news today, which is excellent. Let's just dive right in. Jane sent a subscription. Okay, thank you, Jane. I thought somebody may have. Oh, I see, Pedro, you said that too. Okay, thank you, Jane. That was sweet of you. Appreciate that. So let me get rolling. Please keep the gifts coming, guys. I do this for a living and I do it full time. Your guys' gifts help me pay the bills. So thank you, YouTubers. Thank you, TikTokers. Let's just get rolling. So New York Times. Okay, so big news today, guys, like big news that just broke. The Americans and the Germans are each sending an additional Patriot missile battery to Ukraine. Huge news. Thank you, Fred, for the very nice couch potato gift and trash Hunter with the rose. This is a big story. I was almost thinking I got the story wrong because there's two different stories. And one says the Americans and one said the Germans. And it almost got me wondering, are we sending the same, like, is this one going through? Right? Thank you, Sean, for the gift. Is this one? It's two. So the Americans have an extra Patriot missile battery that they are sending from Poland. The Germans are going to be sending their third Patriot missile battery. This is a big deal. The Patriot missiles, basically, we say battery because it's a whole system, okay? There's actual Patriot missiles, the missiles they fire. These are missiles that the system, it's an American system, goes back 30, maybe 40 years now. And it's an American system that fires missiles in the air to intercept incoming missiles or incoming whatever, planes, etc. Thank you, Martin. And works very well. Ukraine has been in dire need of these because the Russians have been bombing the hell out of Ukraine for over 2 years now. Ukraine does not have that good of air defenses, certainly not compared to the Russians. And the problem has been, I was just reading this today, actually, because I didn't realize we had so few systems. The Americans themselves have got around 14 of these Patriot missile systems. Thank you, Irene, for the gift. But there are also our allies have systems around the world, which is why we haven't had that many to give the Ukrainians. But the Americans are sending one. The Germans are sending one. Thank you, Adventures. As I said, the way it works is you've got a whole sort of system. You've got the missiles. You've got the radar. You've got like the command and control little module or van or something that is sort of the computer, I think, that helps figure out what's going on from the radar and the missiles. So it's a whole system they need. In any case, this is great news. The Germans also had gotten together a coalition to send additional Patriot missiles to the Ukrainians. That was announced today as well because the Germans, Zelensky is in Germany actually today, or was. He was attending a conference that was, let me see, a conference to discuss Ukraine's recovery. Thank you, Kevin, for the gift. And he met with German's leaders, the German president and the German chancellor, the actual head of the government, Chancellor Scholz. And among other things, they announced a German aid package of $500 million euros, or $542 million, and 68 Patriot missiles are going to be coming to Ukraine in addition to the missile battery from the Germans and the missile battery from the Americans. The Germans have put together apparently an initiative of a number of countries, European countries, to help provide more Patriot missiles to the Ukrainians. They found 68 that they're going to be sending the Ukrainians. The countries that apparently are involved specifically with sending these additional missiles are Denmark, the Netherlands, and Norway, which is great news. Thank you, Brock Smith. So as I was saying, I'm going to keep talking here. There's a lot of good news today. I'm actually very excited. Like, it's nice to actually have a good news day for Ukraine. So let me keep going here. Let me see. So we've got the Patriot missiles. We've got Zelensky attending the conference, and they're getting more of the missile batteries. Thank you, Marcy, for the VR goggles, and Trash for the rose. What else we got? Annette. So Ukraine is going to be receiving the Patriot missiles. Oh, okay. Bad news for Ukraine. Zelensky was talking today about the Russian missile strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. I think the Russians are getting a little worried, to be honest. But the Russians are going sort of whole hog against Ukraine's energy again. They've been doing this since the war began, but they kind of slowed down a bit, and now they're going crazy again, trying to take out all of Ukraine's power, but like for civilians, for everything, as they head into the next winter. Like, it's not great in the summer to lose power, but in the winter it's really bad, which is not good. Jens says the Patriot missile battery actually has 6 major components. I thought it was 4. A power plant, 2 vehicle-mounted generators, a radar set, control station, launch stations, antenna mast group. Okay. A little geeky, but I appreciate it, Jens. Let me scroll back here a second. All right, let me keep going here, guys. Hey, Snuffleupagus from Kyiv. Didn't know you could send gifts. You can send gifts. Now, I will remind folks on TikTok, if you go, to send gifts on TikTok, you guys know you've got to buy, actually YouTube too, I guess. You've got to buy coins that you then use to pay for the gifts. On TikTok, at least, thank you, Ellie. If you buy the coins using your iPhone, you're paying 30% more for it because they add in the extra cost for Apple charges like 30% for their app store. So if you buy the gifts, if you buy the coins you need to get the gifts, is it diamonds? Is it gold? I forget what they call it on TikTok. If you buy it using your iPhone, you will pay 30% more. Thank you. Who is that? Thank you, Robert. Of course, who else would give me a dinosaur but Robert? Thank you, Robert. And thank you, Ellie. So if you're trying to buy me gifts on TikTok, at some point, go to your computer and buy the actual coins you need. Then during the show, you can buy the gifts using your phone and it works fine. Is it coin? It is coins. Okay. So you want to buy the coins using your computer and then spend the coins using your phone. That's fine. But you want to buy it with your computer and literally it's 30% less. Which blew my mind when I learned this 2 years ago. And we've got to actually, mods, try to maybe just yourselves, if you think about it, occasionally just tell people, because I never think of even telling people that. So any case. All right, let's keep going here, guys. And I couldn't care less about a Russian sub because honestly, it sounds like Russian propaganda. So I don't care if there's a Russian sub near the US. Guess what? We've got 14 subs. Russia plays any games, our subs will nuke them, which I hope doesn't happen, but it would happen if the Russians played any games. So don't really care if the Russians have subs near the US. That's sort of the advantage of being like a big nuclear superpower. When the Russians play games, it doesn't really matter. They like to bluff on that. Actually, my last story tonight, because it's so insignificant, I put it as the last story. The Russians are threatening nuclear war again, like the 3rd time this week, like the 500th time this war. Who cares? We've got nukes too. It doesn't really matter. So couldn't care less if the Russians have a nuke have a submarine near the U.S. What are they going to do with it? Exactly. As Robert just said, yawn. That's exactly how I feel. I'm like, yawn. Big deal. And again, all they can do is bluff and threaten because they're not doing well. That's all they can do. All right, let's move on here. So more news. Another good story. Business Insider reports that the Ukrainians are building their own glide bombs. This is good. The Russians have been using glide bombs to really blow the hell out of Ukraine these last few months, especially Kharkiv in the northeast of Ukraine. Glide bombs, and as I always tell you guys, I'm a foreign policy expert. I am not a military expert. I do read and I try to sort of learn things as we go along. So I will try to explain glide bombs, but I don't want to screw it up. Basically, they're bombs that are fired from afar, from planes. They can be directed to some degree as they're flying. So basically the bomb gets let go and it can be sort of, directed a bit. They are incredibly effective. One of the reasons they're so effective is because they're flown from a plane and dropped from a plane, and they can travel quite far because they fly. The Russians have been able to basically drop these bombs from well within Russia. It does sound like a JDAM. Yeah, Joshua was saying, is it like a JDAM? It sounds like one. I don't know whether I don't want to get too geeky here for people who aren't up on this, but I don't remember whether the JDAMs are the ones where we actually put the wings on the bombs. I don't know whether these are bombs that basically are already winged bombs, so to speak. You know what I mean? Nonetheless, Dennis says they're similar. The problem with these is, from Ukraine's perspective, Russia is able to fire them from deep within Russia on their planes that the Ukrainians can't reach. So it's almost impossible to stop. You've got this small bomb coming in. You want to hit the plane, but the plane's too far inside Russia. Thank you, Pedro. Ukraine is now developing its own glide bombs. The article I read in Business Insider had a quick reference to the fact that the hope is that the Ukrainian version will be more effective than the ones it has so far received from the West. I don't know why. I mean, Mustard, maybe you or some of the other folks know. Why is Business Insider saying that the Ukrainians are creating their own glide bomb that they hope to test in the next couple of weeks because the ones they're getting from us aren't as effective? And I don't know why ours aren't as effective. But nonetheless, that's what's going on. Any case, that's a big story. I thought that was quite cool. Today is a really cool news day, guys. I'm telling you. So Newsweek reports that a senior U.S. Army official has confirmed that earlier this year in January, when the Ukrainians shot down a Russian AWACS. Remember the AWACS planes are basically like big 740. It's not a 747 because it's Russian, but in America's case, like a big 747 jet that has, thank you, Jonathan, for the gift, that has thank you, Poppy. It always makes me think of St. Patrick's Day, that gift, that has basically a thing sticking out the top and a big pancake disc, looks like a UFO, kind of on the top of the jet, right? A big circle, flat circle. And it's an antenna. Okay. Robert says antenna mast, that basically it's a big pancake on top of the plane and it's for electronic intelligence. Thank you, Snuffleupagus. It is used for spying and seeing what's going on hundreds of miles away. Very important part of our arsenal, and the Russians too. The Ukrainians blew up one of the Russian ones in January, shot it out of the sky. Real quick, Snuffleupagus sent multiple gifts. Thank you, dude. Jonathan, thank you as well. Make sure I'm caught up on the gifts. What we found out today was a senior American official admitted publicly finally that the Ukrainians shot down the Russian AWACS plane using one of our Patriot missiles. Thank you, Snuffleupagus. And even more interesting, they used a German, it's a 707? I thought it was a 747. Okay. All right. Even more important, or even cooler, the Ukrainians used a German Patriot missile battery that is on a truck. The German ones are apparently mobile. They call it a SAMbush. SAMs are surface-to-air missiles. A SAMbush, like an ambush. They call it a SAMbush because basically the Patriot missile battery, Patriot missiles we talked about earlier, missiles that you use to shoot down incoming objects. Well, they put it on the back of a truck so they can drive around. So they can drive like close to Russia, park, fire, and then drive away, right? Thank you, Snowblake. Makes it very difficult for the Russians to fire back and blow up the missile battery because it's moving, right? If you've got something that's stationary on the ground, much more dangerous. The Russians see it and can blow it up. Anyway, the Ukrainians used one of the German Patriot missile trucks to basically scoot near the Russian border, fired at the AWACS intelligence plane, blew it out of the sky, and then flew away. Now, these planes, I'm trying to remember, guys. Does anybody remember what the Russian AWACS cost? Were they like 300 million or something, or 400 million, or even half a billion? What were they? Does anybody remember? Thank you, Poppy. I know it's a lot of money for these AWACS, and they're a big deal. So anyway, yes, we confirmed that it was the American Patriot missile system, but it was actually the German version, the ones the Germans put on wheels that shot it down, which is pretty freaking cool. Rookinator says 300 million. Mustard says one of them was 500. Okay, so it's in that ballpark. It's in that ballpark. That's what I thought. Very cool, though. Very cool. In any case, let's keep going here. So, let's see. More news. European Commission. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says Ukraine is going to receive 3.4 billion euros from the European Union this summer. 1.5 billion euros or $1.6 billion is going to come from the frozen Russian assets in July. And 1.9 billion euros or $2 billion US dollars will come under the Ukraine facility already this month. But that's really nice because basically they're getting $1.5 billion or euros from the frozen Russian assets, which means they're actually doing it finally, getting some of the money to Ukraine, which is great from the Russian assets. More good news. I'm telling you guys, this is like good news day-o-rama for Ukraine. A Russian Su-34 bomber crashed during a routine training flight inside Russia, likely due to a technical malfunction. Russian news agencies are reporting this. This comes from the Telegraph, the British paper. The crash comes amid an increase in aircraft accidents inside Russia that experts attribute in part to a shortage of necessary spare parts caused by sanctions imposed by the international community. Analysts have also said that the high number of aircraft crashes in Russia reportedly may be due to restricted training time, a lack of experienced pilots, and dropping safety standards. Part of the problem is the good Russian pilots are dead or injured. I mean, the Russians have, they're dead. They were killed by the Ukrainians. They're having to train new pilots. It takes years to train pilots. They don't have them. And this is what gets interesting because also at the front, you see this too. The Russians are replacing their soldiers. I mean, the Russians have lost 500,000 men at this point. Not all of them dead, 500,000 injured and killed. The killed could be 150,000, could be 200,000, right? So injured could be 300,000. But nonetheless, even if 300,000 are injured, they're not coming back to fight. Russians have had to replace them with regular people. Actually, not just regular people. They're lately using African students. They're using Nepalese men, Indian men that they basically tricked or coerced to fight for them. They don't have enough men. And the new men the Russians have been trained for, a couple of weeks to a couple of months, which isn't enough. They're new and they don't know what they're doing. So especially for pilots have got to be trained for years. So this is a really cool story. Another story, important story that is going to just piss off the Russians. Sorry, quick sip of water here. This is just great. They're not just called mercenaries. No, Alin's just said they're just called mercenaries. No, they're not. Because in Russia's case, they literally tricked these people or blackmailed them into joining the Russian military. No civilized military in the world does this. No developed country would do this. No superpower would do this. The Russians do it. They tricked these people, or they arrested them and tried to blackmail them into fighting for the Russian military. And then, which is crazy, they take these guys and they basically use them as cannon fodder. They did it to the Nepalese. They did it to the Indians. They did it to the Sri Lankans. The Sri Lankan government today reported that they got the Russians to promise to no longer basically trick or kidnap Sri Lankan citizens to make them soldiers in Ukraine. They take all these foreign soldiers and they throw them at the front to get them killed. Because one of the things the Russians do is they put these soldiers at the very front and use them as cannon fodder. Basically, like they did this in Bakhmut, actually. They used the prisoners and they would throw them at the Ukrainians and just have them run at the Ukrainians and get shot and killed. So yes, they are not just called mercenaries. This is a whole other level than mercenaries. Mercenaries, you pay a mercenary and they fight for you. That doesn't mean you blackmailed them into doing it. It doesn't mean you arrested them and tricked them into doing it. It doesn't mean that you're basically using them and intending to kill them because you don't want to get your own troops killed. That is Russian. That is not mercenary. Just to clarify that point. So another big story, and this is one that the Russians are going to be livid about. The Americans, after 10 years, have lifted the prohibition. Thank you, shells from NOLA for the paper crane. The Americans have lifted the restrictions on giving weapons to the Azov what do they call themselves now? Brigade, used to be called the Azov Battalion. This is a Ukrainian fighting force. It's part of the Ukrainian National Guard. Thank you, High Tide and Ellie, both for the gifts there. Part of the Ukrainian National Guard. We had put a restriction on them because 10 years ago, they were a very bad group of people. Thank you, Ellie, for the confetti. The Azov Battalion had ties to far-right, and when I say far-right extremists, I mean very bad people. NZs, we try not to use the word because TikTok has these kind of crazy rules that they won't explain to anybody. Thank you, Elizabeth. So TikTok can like ban you for literally looking the wrong way. So NZs, the people who were the Germans in World War II, those people, the Azov folks had ties to those guys. They were not good people over 10 years ago. Thank you, Del the Plumber. The U.S., among others, sanctioned them and said, we're not going to sell you weapons or give you weapons because you're far-right NZs. They're not anymore. And we knew this for a couple of years now already, that the Ukrainians basically, 10 years ago or so, weighed in and basically fixed the problem. They said, look, we don't want NZs fighting for us. Straighten yourselves out, kick out the bad guys, reformat your entire thing, do some good training, become basically normal, regular Ukrainian fighting forces. Thank you, Handy Dandy. And you can fight with us. They cleaned their act up, and the Americans finally recognized it today. I'm going to see if I've got a quote here from the Americans. State Department said it found no evidence of gross violations of human rights committed by the force. That's part of the legal language that they have to do. If they find gross human rights violations, they've got to cut them off. The Telegraph notes that the Azov Regiment, which has far-right and ultra-nationalist roots, is part of Ukraine's National Guard and evolved out of a battalion that was formed in 2014 and fought against Russian-backed separatists who carved out breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine. Couple other stories. Oh, Finland. We've got, who is it, Pedro? I'm trying to think. Who else do we have here who's from Finland? There's a couple of you guys from Finland. Thank you, Johnny, for the hearts, the heart gift. Who else do we have from Finland? I know there's a couple of you. I remember actually, Pedro, you're the one I always forget about. And then, because I'm always like Pedro in Finland. It always makes me laugh. Cool. That's the other one. Okay. So Finnish NATO news. Very cool. Finland today made its first deployment for NATO since joining the alliance in April of 2023. Finland sent 7 F-18 fighter jets to a military base in southeastern Romania, where they will conduct air shielding missions with Romanian and British jets. As you guys know, Finland is one of the 2 newest members of NATO, along with Sweden. They were always non-aligned and kind of, Finland was our friend, but Finland was always kind of non-aligned. They weren't going to take sides. Right on the border, huge border with Russia, 800 miles, 1,200 kilometers border with Russia. And the Finns and the Swedes both kind of I don't want to say freaked out because that sounds bad, but both kind of freaked out when the Russians invade Ukraine and said, you know what? We don't trust, we never trusted you anyway, but we really don't trust you now. We think you're going to invade the neighbors. We want to become members of NATO to basically protect ourselves. Because once you're a member of NATO, if somebody attacks you, the rest of the alliance will attack back. So Sweden and Finland joined NATO. Finland last year, Sweden just a few months ago, because the Turks and the Hungarians were playing games. And anyway, so that's the backstory. And Finland provided some planes to Romania today as part of its first military commitment to NATO, which is very cool. Steve, thank you for the hearts. Few more stories, guys, and then we will do our Q&A. The Italian government, this is good. The Italian government has agreed to a military package of 140 million euros for Ukrainian infrastructure and military. Sri Lanka, as I said earlier, said the Russians have promised to no longer coerce Sri Lankan men to fight for the Russian military at the front in Ukraine. Thank you, Suzanne, for the hearts. I'm sort of skipping over some stories that don't matter as much here. Actually, the final one I'll tell you, just because sometimes I feel it's important to talk about this, even though it's bullshit. The Russians are threatening nuclear war again. It's kind of funny because actually they're so bad at this. Putin just like 3 days ago talked about, well, we're not going to be using nukes in Ukraine. We're not going to be nuking the West. Our military doctrine says specific things that would make us use nukes, like attacking Moscow, or meaning like, you're about to take Moscow captive, this kind of stuff. We would never do it. Well, that's after months of the Russians threatening to use nukes. Then they say, no, we're not going to use nukes. Well, now it's been like 2 or 3 days since Putin said no, and now they're saying maybe again. Here's the problem, a couple of problems here. I'm going to give you more details on it in a second. A credible threat usually requires you to, make the threat, not make the threat and back off and make the threat and back off, which is what the Russians keep doing, right? It's just, they're so bad at this. Thank you, Mrs. Toad, for the tiny diny, and Lamb Chop for the paper crane. What the Russians are claiming today now, I'm sorry, I just have to laugh at this because it's such bullshit, guys. This is all the Russians do. They just lie about this stuff, and they're doing it to basically bluff and scare people. Thank you, Jetta. They're claiming that, our nuclear rules say that we would not use nuclear weapons in Ukraine, and we would not nuke the West unless, literally you nuked us first, this kind of thing. Today, the Russians are saying, but we could change those rules. Dun, dun, dun. Thank you, real life. I mean, I just first of all, man up, either change the rules or don't change the rules. But what is this bullshit about, if we wanted to use nukes, we could change the rules to let us use nukes, but we don't want to use nukes and we're not going to change the rules. Then why the hell do I care? No, I mean, this is what I'm saying. They're so bad at this, and they're so bad at bluffing, right? I mean, at least threaten to use nukes if you're going to use nukes, right? I mean, but don't give me this, our policy says we can't use nukes, but we might change the policy, but we're not actually changing it, but we could change it. By the way, the other thing is, this is where, again, they get caught in their lies. Does anybody really believe that Putin wants to use nukes, but the written Russian policy says Putin can't use nukes, so gosh, his hands are tied, right? I mean, can you imagine? I mean, what? It's so ridiculous. If Putin wants to use nukes, he can use nukes. It's a freaking dictatorship. Somebody's going to stand up there. He's going to have them shot. He just shot Prigozhin out of a plane. I mean, because the guy stood up to him. I mean, Prigozhin did try to do a coup d'etat. Fair enough. But you know what I mean? Even that's bullshit as far as the threat, right? The idea that, Putin would love to use nukes, but he can't because the rules say no. And Putin, he's a rules kind of guy. You know what I mean? This is why I bring this up, because, and I, again, try not to swear too much on this stuff, but I do use the word bullshit occasionally for the Russians because it's just bullshit. This is what they do. The Russian government peddles lies, and they try to trick us, and they bluff, especially on the nuclear stuff, they bluff and they bluff and they bluff. That's all they do. It's all they do. In any case, okay, that is it for the news tonight. I will tell you, typically what we do now is we hang out, we talk for another half hour plus. I take your guys' questions. I take your comments. Ukraine, other politics too, if you want, but typically Ukraine. I will show you. I just put up a number of new cool auction items over a Discord. We do a lot of cool auctions for Ukraine. Half the money goes to Ukraine, humanitarian aid, military, etc. Half the money goes to support me because I do this for a living and I do it full time. Thank you, cool. And thank you, me love, for the vote gift. Actually, that's cool. There's a vote gift. I like that. So half the money goes to support me because I do this full time. So you're literally helping me pay the bills to put on the show. The other half we send back to Ukraine. I am going to show you a few of today's. I will say, thank you, High Tide. I've got a number of very cool auction items up at Discord. The mods can tell you how to get there. Basically, description on YouTube. There's a Linktree link. Click it. Find Discord. For you guys on TikTok, go to my profile, look at the Linktree link, click it, find Discord, click it. And then once you go to Discord, you've got to accept it's free, but go and accept the terms and then look for the auctions on the left. It's an auction, so you need enough money to ace. You need enough money to beat the person who bid before you. It's an auction going on for a week. So a couple of the auction items. This one is very cool. It is an extra large t-shirt that from Ukraine. Sold by the Ukrainian military. Sally, thank you for offering a gift membership on YouTube. That's so Sword for Justice got it. That's nice. Sword is one of our regulars, so we're always nice to see those guys get a gift. So this is very cool. This is a t-shirt sold by the Ukrainian military. Vlad bought it in Ukraine, and the military basically was selling it as a fundraiser for the military. And I was asking Vlad, I said, so is it like a private group of families raising money for the military? He said, no, it's the military selling it. So it's a t-shirt that has the Ukrainian trident on it. It's size XXL, so extra large. I tried it on, it's super big, so it's real. And it says, I believe in the Ukrainian military. I can't pronounce ZSU, however you say that in Ukrainian. Thank you, Florian. ZSU is the abbreviation for the Ukrainian Armed Forces. So the video is, I believe, in ZSU, Ukrainian Armed Forces. I like stuff like this because I think I like t-shirts with foreign languages on them. I just think it's cool. Because like as an American, typically you go abroad and you find t-shirts that have like English on it and you're like boring, right? I want t-shirts that have French or my news Maltese friend. Get me a Maltese t-shirt. You know what I mean? But like Ukrainian, same thing. Very cool. So very cool. Very cool. A couple other things. Oh, I've got a new trivet. My new word trivet that Ashley taught me. Ukrainian. So this is a Ukrainian handicraft. It is made from juniper. It is basically meant to go on a table when you're serving dishes and you've got a really hot dish and you don't want to burn the table. Very pretty, made from juniper. I think you actually could stain this if you wanted to, but you don't really have to, obviously. What's nice is because it's juniper, it has a beautiful wood smell to start with. Vlad says these are neat too because when you put the hot plate on it, it actually gives off more of a smell, which is kind of neat, of the wood. Anyway, this is very cool. Again, from Ukraine. Apparently, Vlad also says this is sort of a well-known handicraft of Ukraine. Couple other things. Oh, possibly this is one of our favorite items we have. This is my last one for the moment. I'm going to try to get more from Ukraine. ZCU? Oh, ZCU. Okay, ZCU, Danielle says. This is how you say ZSU. This is a spent shell from Russian and BMP, I believe, from Bakhmut. This was from the fighting in Bakhmut. Bakhmut was one of the big battles of the war. The Russians lost 20,000 men killed in that battle. Analysis by the BBC just the other day. And what's cool with this is it is the Ukrainian trident, but then it's an angel on the other side. I love this. I mean, because it stands up, which is neat, right? So you can actually put it on a table or a counter or whatever. I like these because I think these would be pretty cool to use with candles and stuff. You know what I mean? Which would be kind of neat. Any case, this is very cool. I'm not going to show you everything because there's a lot, but if there's anything else really big. Actually, you know what? The other thing I will show you is Ukrainian candy. We've got more candy. I've got 2 more sets of Ukrainian candy. Vlad sent us a bunch of his favorite candy from Ukraine. This is 5 different pieces. Pretty good weight, I would say. I'd have to weigh it and let you know. But there's a number of things. You can go and check it out over on Discord. Yes, Lynch Films. We're doing auctions every week. They're over on Discord. The mods can tell you, hopefully in the comments, mods, tell them where to go in my profile or you guys on YouTube in the description of the show. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm gonna leave it at that. There's a couple other things, but I'll leave it at that for now. All right. So yes, lots of cool auction items. Most everything's from Ukraine. There's one thing from a cool mask I got in Bali that I'm auctioning too when I was in Bali a month ago. But they're half the money from the auctions goes to benefit Ukraine. The other half goes to support me because I do this for a living and I do it full time. So it helps pay for the show in addition to your wonderful gifts. So yes, there's very cool. The candy's really cool. I've tried some of it. I have tried not to try too much of the candy so that I can give it to you guys. I did try one of the chocolate bars that was very good from Ukraine. I was very impressed actually with their chocolate. So yes, you can check out the Discord link. Basically, I'll tell you both really quick. Thank you, Timothy, where you can find the auctions. You want to go to the Discord community. It's free, but you might have to download the app if you're on your phone. Go to my profile on TikTok, click the Linktree link. All my links will come up. Click the first one, Discord. For you guys, go to the description of my profile of today's show on YouTube. Look for the Linktree link. It's a URL that says linktree.com or whatever it is, Linktree. Click it. And again, first thing that comes up is Discord. Click it. Then you're in our Discord community and you can join. It's free. Click the little button to prove that you're a real person so Syndicate doesn't get mad at you. And then you can go to the auctions and bid, and in a week we will know. But I think it's good stuff today. I mean, there's always interesting stuff, but I think it's particularly interesting stuff. So, anyway, all right, guys, let's talk. What do we got? Let's discuss the news, discuss what do we got going on? Anyway, all right. By the way, mods, at this point, anybody else bringing up Russian warships, mute them. I think the trolls, it's a troll talking point at this point. It's clearly a troll talking point. And honestly, I don't blame the Russians because nobody's paying attention. Nobody cares. It's like, oh, Russia sent some ships near the US. Okay, why do I care? Right? Thank you, Rocco, for the gift. Right? It's clearly an election troll talking point. Yep, Rukinator. I mean, I figured it was, but that last comment made it clear. Yeah, it's a troll talking point. So how much I've been able to raise for Ukraine overall, I've got to do the tally again. It's been a while since I've done a tally. Overall, I've raised well over $100,000 for Ukraine. I don't even know what the total is now. 130, 150,000. The auctions, that's not the auctions though. That's also, we've done a lot of direct fundraising for Ukraine as well with you guys over the last couple of years. The auctions might be 15,000, I think, that we've raised. Thank you, Ginger. Just on the auctions alone. But fundraising overall has been over 100,000 because, for example, we did at the beginning of the war, we did oh, funny, my cousin's trying to call me. My cousin, who doesn't pay attention to when the show is happening, is trying to give me a call at 6:45 at night. I'm gonna send him a text message. This is very funny. Hold on. I'm on my live show. There we go. Sending him a message back. That's very funny. It's always nice when family calls, but it makes me crack up when they call during the show. Anyway, will the West win? I think the question is, will Ukraine win? Right now, it's kind of a tie, I would say. But getting interesting. I think the West started getting a little bit worried about how things were going. And now we started opening up restrictions, right? We're now letting them use our weapons to fire within Russia. More Patriot missile batteries for Ukraine. It's getting a little more interesting. Getting a little more interesting right now, I would say. So, Alec, I mean, I saw that there were, what were we doing? We were doing something with you, asking about the demilitarized zone in North Korea, South Korea. Because they dumped a bunch of garbage on South Korea, we did some kind of patrol. What do we do? We did something with the South Korean military to base that we haven't done in 6 years, just to kind of go to the North Koreans, if that's what you mean. European elections, I did see, we talked about it earlier, like a day or two ago, or yesterday. European elections, difficult because, okay, as an American, it's hard because it's not my politics, right? Second of all, it's not even like your national elections, it's your parliamentary elections for the European Parliament, which confuses the hell out of me. Clearly, the far-right parties are doing better. That's bad. These are neo-fascist, wannabe fascist, fascist light parties, a lot of these. They're not just right-wing. Right-wing is fine. Conservatives, fine. Wannabe fascist, not so fine. And a lot of these guys are wannabe fascists, which is not a good thing, which, we have in the U.S. If anything, the U.S. has an even more wannabe fascist party than some of you guys in Europe, but some of you have got the same. Marine Le Pen is pretty bad in France. Hungarians, we know their problem. But at least in, for example, Scandinavia, they didn't do as well. I just see Shire in Sweden. I think Shire it says, or Shiro, maybe Thero, checking in from Sweden. Sweden, at least, interestingly enough, the Swedish Democrats, it's funny, they're called Democrats, but they're not. They're actually a party that has its roots in the Nazi party. And they didn't do as well, which is really good. So in Scandinavia, the far right did less well. In France, they did very well. Belgium, I think they did better. Italy, I think they did well too. So kind of scary, it's kind of scary. So, hey, Kenneth in Norway. Yeah, Hungary. Well, Hungary is always a problem, Well, no, but the interesting thing in Hungary was I read it's the leading party, which is Trouble, still did well, like 44% of the vote, but it's lower. It's like the lowest they've gotten or something. So it's better in that regard that it's kind of dropping, but it's still 44%, which is a lot, obviously. So far right in Finland did badly. That's good. Cool says that's good. That's good. Who even knows? Shushin says, what's your take on why they did so well? Again, I don't know Europe. And I really mean this. I mean, okay, I probably know Europe better than a lot of you. I mean, not the Europeans, right? But for an American, sure, I know Europe well. But I think it's very hard to understand what makes voters tick without being from that country or studying it a hell of a long period of time. Even in the US, we are trying to figure out like the Trump phenomenon, right? I mean, Trump himself, whatever. But as far as like what makes Republicans support him, especially in view of everything we know about him. Thank you, Kenneth, for doing. Oh, Kenneth just did 5 gift memberships on YouTube that just went to Jay, Mans, Richard, Tree Robitaille, Gunther, and Aaron. Lovely. Or not Aaron. Gunther, you're already covered. Aaron. Chris was asking if Marion answered. Marion started to answer, but I think it was requiring quick answer. You know what, Marion? Send me a text message with your answer on what's the deal with the Russian public and whether they are a threat. Like, why does Putin think the Russian public is a threat? And he's afraid of having national, what do you want to call it? National mobilization, for example. But at the same time, they're kind of a dictatorship. It confuses me. Like, it's not like the Russian people rise up very often, but at the same time, Putin seems to be somewhat afraid of them. I'd say send me a text message because you can write a longer paragraph there, and I can read it to folks. So, but as far as what is motivating it in the U.S., okay, in Europe, supposedly it's immigration. I say supposedly because in the U.S., it's whatever lie you're fed. The latest lie is immigration, but it honestly, COVID, the lie, all the bullshit about the COVID vaccine is going to kill you. That crap motivated a bunch of MAGA voters. Trump lying about Hillary Clinton motivated them. Trump lying about immigration, not lying about immigration. Immigration is a problem in America. That's different. Trump lied about a lot of stuff. He lied about building a wall, which he didn't. He lied about Mexico paying for it, which they didn't. Thank you, Calman. But he wasn't lying about immigration being a problem. What Trump is lying about now is claiming that Biden is responsible for all the immigrants crossing illegally, or migrants, or whatever you want to call them, on the southern border with Mexico, when it's actually Trump who did it. And Republicans already came and publicly said it was Trump's fault. They reached an immigration deal several months ago. Democrats caved and agreed to a conservative immigration deal that was put forth by Republican Senator, far-right Republican Senator Langford of Oklahoma. Democrats basically caved, accepted his deal, and Trump said, "No, what are you doing? You can't fix the border. We've got the election in 9 months. I need people crossing the border illegally for the election so I can accuse Biden of screwing up the border." So Republicans killed their own border deal. It was the Republican proposal they killed. And Trump literally the other day, because Trump told them to, Trump literally a couple days ago came out and said, "Look at all the illegals crossing the border because of Joe Biden." And it was like, no, they're crossing the border because of you. And Biden, by the way, Biden went ahead and he just implemented the border deal, the Republican border deal, but he made it even stronger. The Republicans had this like trigger for 5,000 people crossing illegally a day. Biden made the trigger 2,500 people. So the trigger is now twice as strong as what the Republicans even wanted. But the point is, Trump is lying. Trump lies about everything, and Republicans believe him. So the problem becomes, do you say Trump is doing well in the polls because immigration is a problem? Or do you say Trump is doing well in the polls because Republicans, MAGA Republicans especially, lie very well and their voters are gullible and the latest lie is immigration? Right? It's any case. But in the U.S., it's not just immigration. It's fascism. I mean, it is. It's fascism and what's going on in the U.S. with the Trump people. It's, I think, unfortunately, certainly among Republicans, but probably Democrats too, there is a yearning for a bit of fascism, yearning for an authoritarian, for a strong man. And I always say, and it's a man, it's not a woman. They want a strong man to tell them what to do, what to think, who to hate, right? And they just want to be told that. And in this case, Trump is very happy to tell you who to hate. That's his specialty. And he lies, but doesn't matter because these guys want to be led, and they want to be lied to, and they are. Democrats, there's that contingent. It's the far left. Fortunately, among Democrats, they don't run the party. Among Republicans, they do. But, Democrats could pick crazy people too. Fortunately, they don't, but they could, So, I mean, in the U.S., it is much more the rise of Trump per se being neo-fascist. Whereas in Europe, it was immigration, but there's no way to disassociate what's going on with Trump with what's going on with Europe, right? Think about it. I mean, thank you, Elizabeth. The same Russian disinformation, the same right-wing disinformation, the same lies, the same trying to scare people. It's the same bullshit they're using in Europe that they're using in America to try to scare people, right? So now I'd have a hard time saying in Europe, is it just the issue or is it the disinformation that's working so well? Because it's kind of sad, actually. People are very gullible. There's a stupidity to people, I think, unfortunately. They're very gullible. They can be lied to very easily. And they're happy to be lied to, which really bothers me. That just really freaks me out a little bit. But what do you do? Anyway. All right. What else we got, guys? Sorry, my head is itching today. It's a food allergy. I even took an allergy pill, but getting a little bit of an itch today. Anyway. Immigration is a problem in the U.S., though. We've had way too much illegal immigration. Democrats weren't interested enough in clamping down. Republicans didn't do much either in some ways. They did more, I think. But now it's the Republicans responsible and not the Democrats. Democrats finally found Jesus on immigration, and the Republicans want illegals to cross our border because it helps Trump with the election. So unfortunately, both parties fell through. Biden at least is addressing immigration now, at least, which is good. All right, more questions and comments, guys. But again, immigration is a problem, though. In the U.S., the illegal immigration is a huge problem. We've got like 3 million people crossing the border illegally every year. That's insane. Thank you, Kelman. I'm the first person to speak out about immigration. It drives me crazy. Absolutely drives me crazy. It's just absolutely insane, But again, what do you do? Well, you do what Biden's doing finally, which is you're finally clamping down. No, I could go on about immigration. The issue really does piss me off. We've been letting people apply for asylum that come here illegally. If you come here illegally, you should leave. I always wanted to live in France. I'd love to live in Italy too. When I visited Italy, or I've lived in France multiple times, I knew I couldn't stay, right? And in a million years, I never thought, hey, let's just stay illegally in France and then say, hey, it's my civil right to stay illegally in Europe. In a million years, I would never do that. It pisses me off when people do that about the US. We're supposed to say, it's your civil right to stay in America. No, it's not. It's not. You go through the legal process. And the big problem, which really pisses me off, is we can only let in so many people every year. We're supposed to let in the people who come here illegally. What about the legal people, right? Lots of people want to come to the US and can't come to the US because we've only got so many slots. And we happen to be probably the most popular place in the world for people to immigrate to. I would think that that's still probably the case, certainly by raw numbers. And if a lot of people can't come because they try and they don't win the lottery, we're supposed to let a bunch of people come here illegally and say, oh, well, it pisses me off. It really pisses me off. The other problem, here's the other problem. And this one, nobody's got a good answer to on the pro-immigration side. Most of these people crossing our border are not coming from Mexico, guys. They're not fleeing Mexico. If they're fleeing Mexico, fair enough, right? They're literally on our border and there's some evil, Mexico does have actually a lot of killings and stuff. The crime's gotten really bad. But if they were fleeing Mexico, they'd have an argument, right? My country's killing me and I'm running to America on the border. That's not where they're coming from. They're coming from South America. They're coming from the Caribbean. They're coming from China. There was a big story on China recently about this, right? Thank you for the gift, Igor. The Chinese are paying $20,000 to come illegally to the U.S. via South America. Here's the problem. If you're coming from Venezuela, lots of problems in Venezuela, to America, and you go through 9 countries first, Colombia, Panama, I'm not going to get the order correct here, but Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, Mexico, right? Guatemala. You go through all those countries before you come to America. You don't have the right to come to America as far as I'm concerned. You get in line. You don't cross the border illegally, and you don't claim asylum because guess what? You're not in any danger. You just went through 8 countries that were, if you were in danger in Venezuela and you just went through 8 countries on the way to America, you're no longer in danger from Venezuela. You could have applied for asylum in any of those countries and you chose not to because in the law, we call it forum shopping, where basically you wanted to come to America. You didn't have to come to America. You wanted to come to America. Well, I got news for you. Lots of people want to come to America, and it's not fair for you to get their place because you decided to cheat. That's my problem with the immigration problem today, is I think people are cheating. We're letting them cheat. We are, and no one talks about this. We are harming other immigrants who are trying to come here legally, right? We're not letting them come, but we're letting the people come illegally. And I think it's wrong. And they had a choice that they went through 8 or 9 countries first, right? No, the country's called America, Amy. Don't be stupid. Sorry. I don't, that's like childish, stupid argument. Amy's going, it's not America, it's a continent. The freaking name of the country is America. Yes, it's our country. Deal with it. And by the way, Mexico is called the United States of Mexico, and they're called Mexico. So if they're not, if you use the first part, United States, then why isn't Mexico called the United States and not Mexico? And if they are the United States, that's us. So Mexico has no name, actually. No, I'm sorry, but it's a piss off point that kind of anti-American people use, and it pisses me off. This whole, don't call yourself America because the whole continent's America. Oh, grow up already. You know, I mean, by the way, my name's John. That means none of you can be called John. You know what I mean? Like, two places can use the name. We can have a continent and a country. It's okay. It's actually okay. Anyway, don't get me going today. We're having a good day with all the good Ukraine news here. The problem is the courts. It's not really the courts. I mean, the problem is the courts don't have enough. The courts are backlogged 2 years. You know, new president of Mexico. I don't know enough. Bingo Bango's asking about the new president of Mexico. I don't know enough because there's a little controversy there. New president of Mexico is a left-wing woman, Jewish woman. By the way, first Mexican president to be a woman. Great, Jewish. Also good. I mean, in terms of breaking minorities or whatever. She's. I don't know enough about this, but folks have said she's like, don't assume because she's like a Jewish woman that she's like great. There's controversy surrounding her positions and things and kind of who's backing her and everything else. So I would want to read more on it. But, you know, that's his name, Gunther. Yeah, no, that's his name, Gunther. I will do a summary at the end, Michelle. I start the show. The show starts at 6 an hour ago, and I start the show by going through the Ukraine news, and usually it takes about 40, 45 minutes, which we did today. And then I take questions on whatever, but people started talking about immigration. So we start, because of the European elections, we started talking about immigration. But at the end, I'll do a summary of the Ukraine news again at the end, since you asked. I've got a lot of good candy, Traveler. I've got more Swedish candy I've got to go through. I've not gone through all of it. There's a lot left. I still haven't gone through the chocolate yet. So I'm waiting. I'm going to go through a little bit more of the sweet. I'm not a sweet fan as much as I am chocolate fan. Sweets meaning like sugar candy is not my thing, but it's good. The stuff I've tried has been very good. I'm going to do another one soon. And then I'm going to there actually is a controversy, Barbara, about the new Mexican president. There is. I mean, there is. I'm just telling you for a fact. Some people think she's okay. And some people are like, don't just call her a liberal woman. She's got some issues. So there's a controversy. People I respect are saying that. So, well, the issue isn't whether Russia will ever be able to host the Olympics again. The issue is whether Russia will even ever be able to participate in the Olympics again as Russia. But hosting it as well is a problem. Yeah. You know, exactly, Adrie. You know, I will say, or Adrie, I've been very curious about British tea because I don't really drink tea very much. I'm a coffee guy. But my nephew had gotten me really good tea for Christmas a year ago and then got me more this Christmas. And I was very surprised because it was the first time I'd say that I've had really good tea. Very flavorful, very rich. I was very surprised. I mean, some of it was using cherry and real flavors like cherry and some other flavors that were really amazing. So it's not the first time I've had good tea. Like I had not Earl Grey. Was it Earl Grey? I think. What's the one that actually is a little bit? I think it is Earl Grey. The one it's almost a little fruity. Which I was surprised. It almost was a little too fruity, which I don't think I liked of the Earl Grey. I think it was Earl Grey. But interesting, however, very interesting. So no, I'm very intrigued. I did do tea time once in Singapore. We were going to do it and we just didn't have time this trip. I really wanted to, but my first trip to Singapore 25 years ago, we arrived, we were coming from America, going to do some work for the State Department in Indonesia, and arrived in the afternoon. And after this, like 14-hour flight from the US, exhausting, right? Thank you, Cheryl, for the gift. Exhausted. And we're flying out the next morning. So we just didn't have the energy to go anywhere. Also, 25 years ago, Singapore didn't have nearly the cool stuff they've got today. So we went and we did high tea at our hotel. We were staying at a very nice hotel. And we did high tea at the hotel. And it was absolutely lovely. The tea was great. the little snacks. They've got all the different little snacks, and then it culminates in dessert snacks at the end. You know, the little sandwiches, and oh my God, it was so. The thing that shocked me was how full I was by the end. Because you look at these sandwiches, they're like this big, and you're going, this is not going to fill me. But it felt, it was lovely. I mean, it was really neat. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got to do that again. I've got to find a place that does high tea again. Again, I should have done it in Indonesia. I mean, in Singapore this time, but we got so busy. We were exhausted. High tea is less formal. I must have had afternoon tea then. Okay. We say high tea, you know, but afternoon tea, I would say it was more formal. It was definitely, I want to say there could have been 4 different big things brought to us, like 3 or 4 big things brought to us. And I remember the little cucumber sandwiches, and I remember the desserts, but I don't remember what they were. But I remember the desserts being really good, which I was really happy about. With the tiers, exactly. It was like 3 or 4 layers of the thing, and they brought like one, and then brought another, and brought another. Actually, I almost want to think too, they brought like until you were full, because I remember thinking this just isn't going to be enough food. Looking at it, because they're this big, and I was like, oh my God, it was okay. So it is afternoon tea. Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So very happy about that. That was fun. Anyway. What else we got, guys? What else we got? So thank you, Courtney, for the gift. Yorkshire tea and scones. I do make scones. I've made scones. God only knows if they're authentic, but they're very good. They're kind of have a lot of, hold on. I have a friend messaging me that they don't have TikTok. I'm like, you don't need to have TikTok. Just go to the website and watch. I'm pretty sure you can watch. Can't you? Can you or can't you? Are you not able to on TikTok? Do you need to be logged in or anything? Or can you actually watch the show using the URL and going to like the website? I never know kind of how that works. I'm telling him he can. Maybe he can't. So who knows? Who knows? On YouTube. Oh, that's true. I am on YouTube. That's true. That's true. I forgot about that. That's true. I did forget about that on YouTube, actually. Hold on. I'll send him my YouTube link. Although now it's a little late anyway, since I was sending my show to a friend, but you know, at this point, where is my YouTube? Is that my YouTube link? I think that's my YouTube link. Let's see. There we go. All right. He's got the YouTube link now. There we go. Oops. Where are we? All right. Hello, everybody. Anyway, thank you, Jen Thomas. What else we got going here? What else is going on? Although now sending a friend at this part of the show where nothing's going on. Now my friend is lurking on YouTube as we speak. This is not the bad part, but this is the part of the show. Okay. For my friend who I think just arrived, this is the part of the show where we hang out and talk. The first 45 minutes is where I go through the news of the day for Ukraine. So that's why now I'm just looking at the comments and seeing what people are saying. What's going on? Well, it's 7:06. I usually stay till 20 after, to half hour after. So we got more time. Have I been in the Oval Office? Jonathan asks. I have bent into the Oval Office. When you know people in the White House, you can get a special White House tour that they take you on at like 10 o'clock at night. And you can basically go, because the president's already gone for the day upstairs to his residence, and you can go to the door of the Oval Office and kind of lean in and look around, which was very exciting, which is the president's office. So I did get to do that, which was very cool. But I've never been to an actual meeting. That would be really cool. But I'm not important enough to have had a meeting in the Oval Office, sadly. I have had multiple meetings in the White House. I did get to see the Obama dog. That was kind of fun. One of the dogs, I forget which was it, Socks? No, Socks was Socks one of them? The 2 really cool Obama Portuguese water dogs. And I got to see one of them, which was really neat. It was getting walked right when we were walking. We were like, the dog, which is silly, but it was fun at the time, you know. Anyway, Audrey says, I want to do a UK general election night with people on TikTok. You should. I mean, honestly, I think for those of us who don't understand British politics, which is true. Bo, thank you. You're right. It is Bo. Socks was the cat, the Clintons. Oh my God, look how old I am. Socks was the Clintons' cat, but Ash, it was Clinton's cat was Socks. That's the thing. I think it was Clinton's going all the way back then. But no, I think an election night for the British elections, I'm not going to host it, but for some Brits to host it would be really interesting because most of us don't understand your politics. Americans, I do explain to an American friend the other day how the parliamentary system works because we don't have that. And it's very confusing to an American to say like, well, they don't vote for the prime minister, but they vote for people who pick a prime minister. And he was like, what? And then when you don't have a majority, how you put together a majority, very confusing. It's just, I'm sure I'm explaining it wrong, just explaining it to you now. So having a Brit do it, I think would be interesting. Watch it, Devils. That was cute though. That was a cute comment. Thank you, Pinky or Pinksy with the hearts. Thank you for that. Well, I guess that's true. Sorry, I'm seeing what Jeffrey's saying. So is it Estados Unidos Mexicanos? It wouldn't be Estados Unidos de Mexico. So it's probably Estados Unidos Mexicanos, I'm guessing, if it's United Mexican States. Erica, you're a Brit. You can explain it. I'm sure you can. I hope you can. It's just confusing to us. Thank you, Ava, for the gift. It's very confusing, the whole parliamentary system thing to an American. Then again, our presidential elections are a disaster. I remember Estados Unidos de Mexico is what I think of as the name of Mexico. That's what I always thought it was. I don't think it's Mexicanos though. Yeah. I always thought it was de Mexico. So anyway, what else we got, guys? What else we got? Thank you, W. If you're talking about me, WC, thank you. If you're not talking about me, okay. Pa Bullion says, I feel like that's how a majority of parliaments work in Europe, at least in Estonia. Yes, although like in France, in France, the parliamentary election is, what do you call it? Runoff, which is very confusing. It is, Barbara. That's what I thought. Yeah, de Mexico. In France, it's very confusing because they have a runoff. It just, like I said, I'm like, bleh. Actually, no, Italy. Italy's the worst. The Italians, I love Italy, been to Italy a lot, love Italy. And the Italians have, they run on slates they were trying to explain this because I was looking at an election sign and it showed like 8 people or something. I was like, what? And they were like, well, you don't really vote for the people for parliament. You vote for the slate. Like, what do you mean you vote for the slate? To this day, I don't understand Italian elections. So it's even crazier, I think. But the US is crazy too. I mean, the US, the way we do presidential elections, the person who gets the majority votes does not win the presidential election in America. Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. She lost. Al Gore got 500,000 more votes than George Bush. He lost. So our system is even screwier on the presidential level. It makes no sense at all. And frankly, even for us to explain it, it's very confusing. Thank you, Liv, for the gift. Very confusing. No, sorry, Quinta. You're thinking Donald Trump. Yeah. Sorry. Quinta was talking about presidents going to jail. That would be convicted felon Donald Trump, 34 felonies you're talking about. Biden has one big flaw. He's old. Biden's not a crook. It kind of makes me laugh when Republicans do the Biden's a crook thing. Joe Biden, I kind of wish Biden was a crook to some degree, just because maybe he'd be a little tougher on the Russians. Biden is too nice, if anything. It's funny because he's kind of an asshole too. Biden actually is kind of a dick in terms of staff that have had to deal with him. He's not a nice guy. But on the international scene, he's almost too nice of a guy, I think, which is why he's always trying to make the Russians, let's work with the Russians, this kind of crap. And I wish he'd stand up to them more. But the notion that Biden's a crook, give me a break. I mean, I just think it's one of those, this is where we talked about immigration too. It's one of those talking points from Republicans, again, MAGA Republicans at least, where they just lie about stuff. And they've convinced their people, which I understand why MAGA Republicans believe all this crap, because Fox News tells them their president tells them Trump. Fox News tells them their favorite news station, right? Their leaders in Congress tell them, and they believe this shit. I mean, imagine the rest of you, normal people, if your president who you voted for tells you a lie, your top newspaper you believe tells you a lie, your top TV news show you believe tells you a lie, and your top members of parliament who you voted for and believe tell you the same lie, you're going to believe the lie. I mean, that's what's so dangerous about sort of this neo-fascism on the right and everything else, right? Is you've got the entire sort of thought leadership of the Republican Party. their media, their president, their politicians in Congress lying to the voters. So of course the voters believe it. I mean, they're also very gullible, but of course they believe it. But no, I just saying because somebody said Biden's a crook. But I wish Biden was a crook. Are you kidding? Biden is such a goody two shoes. It's not even funny. He needs to be less of a goody two shoes. He'd probably be tougher on the border, and he'd be tougher on Russia if he were. Biden's problem is he's old. That's it. But the other guy's a convicted felon. So, there is that. Also, let millions of people die from COVID. There's that. But hey, and tried to violently overthrow the government. There's that. But if you don't care about democracy, living, or having a convicted felon as president, then yes, Trump is much better than Biden, who's old. Yeah. By the way, Biden's 3 years older than Trump, so Trump is old too. Anyway. So I'm looking at people talking about the people talking about the parliaments. I started a whole conversation about the parliaments here. Very scary. Hey, Bryce. Anyway, what else we got, guys? What else we got? Otherwise, soon I will go and do my summary of the news here. The summary of the news we talked about today. Kamala Harris is still his vice president. Yes. Malavray, I don't think it's ageism in this case. Here's the problem, right? If you say someone's old, okay, if you say I'm old, it's ageism, right? If you say I'm old to be an Olympic swimmer, it's not ageism, right? It's true. Or I'm old to be a ballet dancer. I am a little old to be a ballet dancer. A little old. I'm 40 years too old to be a ballet dancer, probably, right? Yeah, I am. If you say I'm old and companies shouldn't hire me in general because I'm old, that's ageism. Joe Biden's 80 years old. The guy's old. Donald Trump is 77 years old. He's old. They're getting there. Both of them are getting there. I think, frankly, both of them are a little too old to be president, to be honest. I think they are. That's not ageism. Anybody who's experienced old people in their life, by the way, your parents, if they survived to their 80s and 90s, or your relatives, my family being Greek, I think, we got good genes. And I think Greeks in general, we got a lot of old Greeks in our community in Chicago. Once you hit 90, typically you're having some deficits, right? If you're lucky, you're only starting to have some memory issues. If you're lucky. Physically, you just can't kind of hold it up anymore. Men, especially, by the time they get in the 80s, just aren't doing as well. I think men in the 80s start to, again, have issues. Not every man, but most do. I just think that at some point, you do start to get a little, guys, we age as people, and at some point we become old. And at some point when you're too old, maybe you shouldn't be holding jobs down, right? It just is. Mark says at 50, you start forgetting. That's scary. I know at 40, you start shrinking. How's that for fun? Just something to look forward to, all of you. Once you hit 40, between 40 and 50, I Googled this the other day. Between 40 and 50, men lose like a quarter an inch or more. 50 to 60, they lose another quarter inch, and 60 to 70, they lose another quarter inch, and then it stops, thank God, because it would really suck if, like, the longer you live, the shorter you get. But that's like an exciting, just something to live for, everyone. If you live long enough, you're going to get short, just so you know. I'm not sure what you mean, Terry. What's that? Before? How long do we wait before calling BS on the F-16s? I don't think Ukraine's not supposed to get the F-16s until August. That was always the plan that was public. So I don't really have let me rephrase this. We are not slow yet on providing the F-16s. They weren't supposed to get them until August, in principle. We're going a little slow on the training. The training, however, we were also told was going to be slow. I think Biden's going too slow anyway. But we were told it was going to be slow. We were told they only had like 6 slots for pilots or 8 slots for pilots or whatever in the US. So, I mean, my BS on the F-16s is this entire freaking process has been way too slow getting the F-16s for Ukraine. Biden waited way too long to approve it. He waited a year and 3 months maybe to sort of give the okay. Was it a year and 3 months? No. A year and 3 months. So 2000 and maybe May or June of 2013, I want to say, Biden approved the F-16s and then didn't approve the training facilities for like 3 more months. They didn't get the trainings even begun until a couple more months. Everything was like drag it out longer and longer and longer. That I blame him for. So, what else? And then we go. Beep, 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 beep. I'm just looking at your guys' comments here. Anything, guys? Otherwise, we're gonna. Russia's scared of China. Russia should be scared of China. I mean, the Russian-Chinese partnership is basically Putin as, Xi's puppy, basically. I mean, the Russians and the Chinese are not equals. They're not. Russia is an ascendant world superpower with great influence economically and maybe someday culturally as well, in terms of meaning around the world. In Asia, they've got influence, but around the world, they don't culturally. But I mean, they're using soft power and things like that in Africa, right? They've been doing big business deals for 10, 20 years now. But the Russians are not China's equal, no. Not economically, not culturally, even, I would say, not even close. And Chinese I don't know, maybe Chinese don't have indoor plumbing either. I don't know what the percentage is there. The Russians sort of historically, what is it, like 25% of the Russians don't have indoor plumbing or something? Alexa, what percentage of China has indoor plumbing?
From weatherandclimate.com. Less than half of China has a temperate climate with wet summers and dry.
No. Alexa, quiet. She's being stupid. Alexa, what percent of China has indoor plumbing? She thought I said.
In China, that number is 30 to 40%.
Woo! Wow, China's even worse. 30 to 40% have indoor plumbing. Wow. I guess I'm not surprised though, but still, wow, crazy. But yeah, the Russians have like 25% of the country don't have indoor plumbing, which is very bad, which is why they steal toilets in Ukraine, which is funny, but sadly true. The Russians literally stole toilets from Ukraine when they invaded, because for them, that was like, oh my God, toilet. Like it was like finding, gold or something, the what do you call the El Dorado? It was Russia El Dorado, toilets. This was like going to the Bahamas or so, you know what I mean? Or going to the French Riviera for the Russians. So thank you, Daryl, for the gift on TikTok. I'll make a last minute push for gifts, guys, because I do this for a living full time. So please help if you can. The U.S. percentage, Mikey, I want to say 12 or something. Let me ask. Alexa, what percentage of the United States has indoor plumbing?
The United States' normal annual average temperature is 40.
Oh my God, average temperature. Alexa, quiet. Alexa, what percent of the United States has indoor plumbing?
From mag.com. The census reported that 99.36% of homes have indoor plumbing.
Oh God, 99.6% have indoor plumbing? I thought it was smaller than that. That sounds kind of high. Thank you, Jen Thomas and Marie, for the gifts. Thank you, Michelle, as well. Mikey, that sounds a little high. I mean, I hope it's true, but that sounds a little high. Hey, Google, set your volume to 30%. Hey, Google, what percentage of American homes have indoor plumbing?
On the website pmmag.com, they say the census reported that 99.36% of homes have indoor plumbing.
They're saying 99.36. Wow. Sorry, guys. Andrew, I just set off your Google in the UK. I always laugh at that because I'm always like, Google, launch the nuclear weapons. It's like, for Sweden, Alexa, what percentage of Swedish homes have indoor plumbing?
From mag.com. The census reported that 99.36%.
No. God damn it. Alexa, stop. God, she's saying American again. Hey, Google, what percentage of Swedish homes have indoor plumbing?
Sorry, I don't understand.
She doesn't know. It doesn't know. They're getting confused. Alexa, what percentage of Swedish homes have indoor plumbing?
From mag.com. The census reported.
No. Alexa, stop. Okay, yeah, she's getting confused. AI is not quite what it needs to be yet, guys, sadly. Yeah, China has ghost cities. Yeah, there's a lot of big cities they built that just are like vacant. Kind of scary. Thank you, Shebug. Well, the bush community, yeah. Alaska is different because in Alaska, up until now with global warming, you had permafrost. So the ground, Canada too, the ground is frozen. So they couldn't have plumbing because the ground was frozen ice. So you couldn't build, plumbing in there, that's a different question, right? You know, WC says, I'm from West Virginia. We have indoor plumbing, to use the more polite word. Elon Musk's Grok. I'll ask Elon Musk's Grok, and it's probably going to go, oh, you are trying to find an Enzi festival? You know, I can only imagine what Elon Musk's program would tell me. You know, God only knows. Oh, you'd like to find a Klan rally? Thank you, Elon. Not what I was looking for, but that's very sweet of you. Anyway, all right, guys, I'm about to. It's 23 after. I think it's time for me to do the news summary for you all, and then get going. All right. I did have a little snack, so at least I'm not starving yet. Although I'm looking forward to having more candy out of my fridge. Woo woo! So I've still actually I've got the Swedish candy, but I'm saving that for the videos. But I've got my favorite Trader Joe's peanut butter cups that are to die for, and I have one or two every night, and it makes me very happy. So, yay! All right. Interesting. Less than 1/3% for the U.S. That's amazing that the number's that high. I really thought it was 11 or 12 or something. That makes it even worse. If the U.S. has literally less than 1% that doesn't have indoor plumbing, and the Russians are like, is it 22? What is it for? Or it's not, the Russians isn't 12%. I think it's 22, isn't it? All these peanut butter cups are good. Oh, the bomb, are they? I don't know, Magical. I couldn't tell you about U.S. Census workers. Who knows? I mean, who knows, right? I just don't know. All right, guys, let me do a quick summary of the news here. And then we will probably call it quits here. All right. Well, let me can ask. No, actually, we just did the U.S. Yeah. Anyway. All right, let's get moving here. All right, today is day 838 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. These are the stories we covered today. The New York Times reports that President Biden has approved the deployment of another Patriot missile system to Ukraine. And the Germans earlier today announced that they are also sending another Patriot. You know, if they've got 3 and they're getting 2 more, that's pretty big. I also thought there was another German one coming. The Germans, this is the, let me see here. I think this is the 3rd or the 4th coming from the Germans. I don't know if I had it written down. I think, is it the 3rd or 4th, guys? Any Germans out there? You guys should know this. 3rd. It's the 3rd that's coming. It's the 3rd. That's what I thought. The Germans is the 3rd one that's coming. So good for the Germans on that front. Zelensky is in Berlin today, or was at least attending a conference on Ukraine aid relief. And he met, of course, with the German president and the German chancellor. The Germans also announced an aid package of 500 million euros for the Ukrainians. Ukraine is going to receive an additional 68 Patriot missiles, thank you, Shebug, from a German-led initiative. Russian strikes on Ukraine's energy facilities have destroyed half of Ukraine's electrical generation capacity since the winter. That's a big deal, very scary. Business Insider reports that Ukraine is making its own glide bombs, trying to match the Russian weapons that are causing so much damage inside Ukraine. This is the part where I just summarize the stories we covered. Thank you, Chaz, for the gift. And thank you, who's it, Pam Pam? Newsweek, a senior U.S. Army official has confirmed that Ukraine used one of its American-made Patriot surface-to-air missile systems to down a Russian airborne early warning and control system, the AWACS system, basically, in January 2024. That was a cool story. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says Ukraine's going to receive 3.4 billion euros, which is almost the same in dollars, from the EU this summer. Thank you, Chaz, for the hearts. A Russian Su-34 bomber crashed during a routine. I'm thinking latrine. You guys have me thinking indoor toilets. A Russian Su-34 bomber crashed during a routine training flight inside Russia, killing the crew on board. Sad. The U.S. removed restrictions on the transfer of American weapons and training to the Azov brigade, which is going to drive the Russians up the freaking wall. This is important for helping Ukraine, but it's also such a great troll because the Russians hate these guys. The Baltic states are going to disconnect. Some stories I didn't cover, but I'll mention. The Baltic states are going to disconnect from joint Russian power grid in February 2025. That's good news. Finland made its first deployment for NATO since joining the alliance, sending F-18 fighters to a base in Romania. The Italian government agreed to a military package of 140 million euros for Ukraine. Sri Lanka's foreign ministry says that it has received assurances from Russia that it would stop recruiting Sri Lankan citizens to fight in Ukraine. Basically, the Russians have been duping Sri Lankans, Indians, and Africans, in some case blackmailing them, into fighting for the Russian military, and then they kill them. They basically throw them as cannon fodder at the front of all the troops and get them killed. It's horrific. And then final story, which I put as a chuckle, really, because it's stupid. Russia says it may amend its nuclear policy so that it can attack the West with nukes and attack Ukraine with nukes. It's bullshit. This is all the Russians ever talk about. It's total bluff and total bullshit. But the thing I raised at the end that I thought was an important point, thank you, Annie, is if Vladimir Putin wants to nuke us, he can do it right now. If Vladimir Putin wants to nuke Ukraine, he can do it right now. It's Vladimir freaking Putin, right? He doesn't need, oh, I want to nuke Ukraine, but the law won't let me, because we all know how important the rule of law is in Russia, right? I mean, it's more Russian bullshit. And they're not even saying they're going to change the rules on when they use nukes to make it easier. They're saying, we can. We're not saying we are, but someday we could. Well, that's like saying, you know what I mean? Like, that's not really a threat. I mean, it's not even a threat to use nukes. They're threatening to maybe sometime change the rules for when they might use nukes. Ooh, scary. I'm so scared. So yeah, I put that as a story because occasionally it's important to remind you guys how full of shit the Russian government is when they talk about nuclear weapons. It is all a bluff. It's all from a position of weakness. And you shouldn't believe a single word they say when it comes to those issues. So, all right, guys, that is it for tonight. It is almost 7:30. We've been doing this for an hour and a half. That is my normal sign-off point. I always feel like saying, I am Mrs. Maisel. It reminds me of, I love, wonderful TV show, by the way. Thank you, user 336. If you ever can watch it on Amazon, The Wonderful Mrs. Maisel is an absolutely amazing TV show. Bacon, you just got here. It's been an hour and a half, dude. Or lady. What do you want me to do? You're late. I can't hang on. I mean, I can, but the problem is I try to be careful. We did have one, the first year I was doing this, when I was doing it 7 nights a week. Now we do Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern. But I lost my voice at one point, although I think a bug was going around. So you're allowed to watch your kids, fair enough. But a bug was going around, but I don't know. So I try to, at an hour and a half, I cut it off so I don't lose my voice here. But all right, guys, thank you. I appreciate the gifts all of you gave today. That was very sweet of you. We do have the auctions up. Remember, lots of cool auction items, cool stuff from Ukraine. We're auctioning off. Half the money goes back to Ukraine. Thank you, Beaches. Half the money goes to support my work. You can find our auctions on YouTube. Look at the description in my profile. You'll see the Linktree link. Click it. It takes you to a page. Look for Discord. Click. You got to do some rigmarole once you get there. That's life. For TikTok, go to my profile. Click the Linktree link. Discord is the first link after that. Click that, and you're in Discord. And again, you kind of have to do some rigmarole to get there. Once you're used to it, it'll be fine. Frumple, thank you for subscribing. And if that was a gift from somebody on TikTok, let me know really quick, and I'll do a quick thank you. Thank you, Pam Pam, for the gift on TikTok. I'm going to guess, did somebody give Frumple a gift membership? Deb sent it. Thank you, Deb. Very sweet of you. Thank you. And thank you, Ivailo. There's an interesting name. Ivanov. Ivanov is clearly Eastern European. Ivailo. I've never seen that name before. That's interesting. Anyway, thank you for following me on TikTok. But I like foreign stuff. I guess we're all foreign depending where you're from. But I like sort of interesting foreign names. Ivailo. Very interesting. Anyway, do I still want Hungary kicked out of NATO? Oh God, yes. Are you kidding? What does Hungary do? I mean, goulash? I mean, no offense to the Hungarians, but your government sucks. You don't offer anything for NATO, and all you do is hold us back. Why are we defending you? Not to use a Donald Trump argument, but it's a good argument in this case. Why are we using America's nuclear arsenal and promising to use America's troops to defend Hungary when Hungary hates us? If you hate us, guess what? Go join the Russians, right? I mean, Hungary should not stay in NATO. And they actually ought to be told. Thank you, Super Hornet. They should just be told. I mean, Malavre is saying Hungary will have elections. Hungary did have elections not that long ago, and they reelected Orban, which is not good, or his coalition, but still. No, but they should be told straight up. You know what? If you don't like us, go join the Russians. I'm sure Belarus, Libya, Venezuela, and Cuba would be happy to defend you instead of U.S. Germany, the UK, and Norway. And good luck with that, by the way, the great Belarusian military when they come to your aid, you know? So anyway. All right, guys. Thank you guys. It's been an hour and a half. I'm going to head out. I appreciate you joining me today. Again, thank you for all the gifts. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Remember, 6 o'clock Eastern. We do this every night. It's kind of a fun thing. We hang out. We talk about the news, usually Ukraine, but I'm here to talk about any topics I know, which typically U.S. politics would be my specialty. But we can go on from there. All right, guys. I'm going to sign off. We can talk more tomorrow about Hungary. I see Balint. I see your question. Your government hates us, clearly. Your prime minister's an asshole. He hates NATO. He hates he hates NATO. He hates the European Union. He's clearly pro-Putin. He sympathizes with he's frankly like Trump in many ways. He sympathizes with the Russians. He hates our allies. I mean, join them. I really mean it. Maybe you're good people. You need to get rid of that guy. If you're good people, vote for somebody else. And I say this with Trump too. We elect Trump. We deserve the same criticism, right? If you're in a democracy and you vote for a bad man, you own him. You don't get to say, well, I know he's horrible, but no, Orban's a terrible man. So you need to get rid of him legally. I don't want the TikTok mods, the TikTok crazies, the TikTok overlords to get upset with us. Anyway. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everybody. I will see you tomorrow. All right. Thank you, TikTok. Thank you, YouTube. I'm going to start with YouTube here. Bye-bye, guys. Boop. And TikTok. See you all.